die for, live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'm a live it to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the die for and live to no end? This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'm a live it to death.
Welcome, welcome. This is the Monday night, every Monday night, Living Hope agency call. So every single week we have, training. We have top producers, top agency managers, people that know what in the world's going on in the insurance world to come and, bring us great training, great insights. So how we can better ourselves. My name is Josh Lockhart, FFL Gloves Off. You see the sign behind me. And we're going to talk today about what to do in your first 90 days, right? So we have a bunch of people on the call right now. Maybe you are, and you're just getting this thing, and maybe it's a little bit overwhelming. And we have a whole bunch of folks that are, veterans. They're in it, they're moving, and we're going to talk about what to do over the next 90 days. And so for everybody in the chat, if you would like to make a positive change in your business over the next 90 days, just type "I'm ready." So I know who actually I'm talking to, because there's a whole bunch of people that are on, or seeing this and they're not engaged. So that's fine. But the people that are ready, I want to talk to you. Okay. Awesome. Robert, Josh, Aaron, the bearded broker. That's my guy right there. Appreciate you guys. Okay. So the first thing is I'm going to tell you a little bit about my first 90 days. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you can't. I'm not going to pretend that my first 90 days is like, oh, everybody does this, because they don't. But you can part of it's the mindset and the thought pattern of what you need to do. And then there's the practical steps and things that you can write down and get done. Okay. So I have been in, this position with Family First Life for 2.5 years. Okay. So I've been around the insurance industry for 15 years. Now, that's not specifically life insurance. It's all kinds of different things, right? So I think it is important to know it's fair that, I didn't start not knowing what in the world to do. Now, many people do. My wife did, and a bunch of people that I know did, and they've had success. But, I had certainly made a phone call, run a sales appointment, which I'm going to come back to that, why that's important. And so when I got started, right away, I had some goals. Maybe you have some goals. And a lot of times I would say that we set our goals too low. I think that's a pretty fair point to start at before we jump into the nitty gritty, right? We have these goals, and most all of us have worked a job, like an actual W-2 job, right? And we get paid X amount an hour. I remember my last actual W-2 job, I got paid $6.75 an hour. And I really thought, man, if I could just make it to $8 an hour, what in the world be so great? And that was many moons ago. Right. And we think in those terms. We think, oh man, if I could just get to $8 an hour, wouldn't that be great? If I could just make $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, man, if I could just make it to 6 figures, the world would be right and all my problems would be solved. And we think in this very linear fashion. And what I found in business, especially in what we do, right? It's a lot harder than you think. But when you get there, it's wow, this was so easy. It's both at the same time. And it's really, really confusing, especially before you make the leap. So what I would contend is whatever you think that you want to do, because we usually water it down, right? Set your sights a little bit higher on what you think is a little bit out of your reach, because it's probably going to be more exciting to get up in the morning, right? I always use the great example, who's ever had your goal was, if I could get out of debt, that's my goal. Get out of debt. Okay. I hope I'm not the only one, right? But if you get out of debt, that means you're broke and you're at zero. No one's getting excited to be broken at zero, right? But if your goal was to get out of debt and have 10 grand in the bank or 50 grand in the bank or whatever the number is, that's a little bit more of an exciting goal to get up and go, hey, I'm working to have 5 figures in a bank account, versus I'm working just to pay off Visa or pay off the government. Okay. And so I would just encourage you to examine hey, what is my goal? And if you don't have one, if it's just hey, I just want to help people and be a good insurance person, that's all fine and good. And the sentiment, I get it. But after 15 years of doing this and working with hundreds of 1099 salespeople, every single person I'm like, hey, John, what's your goal? And they're like, I don't care. I just want to help people. It's like, well, on the graph, where do we put that? And it's like on Tuesday, when, John has worked his normal job and then is getting insurance and he doesn't feel like it. I was like, John, I thought you wanted to help people. He's like, well, yeah, but like I'm busy. I got stuff to do. Like, it's hard to quantify like how many people, like, does person A, you don't need to help them, but person B, like, so like get clear on that. I think a lot of times we hear people say that, and it's so common that we just kind of gloss by it. We go, yeah, make more money. I get it. But like, let's stretch ourselves just a little bit. Okay. With that said, my goal when I started was to sell 100 policies, help 100 people to get into class as a new agent to get their license in 100 days. 100 policies, 100 people in 100 days. Okay. That was my personal goal. Now, made that happen, and I'm going to talk about what that looked like and how that helped me even today. All right. But to kind of backtrack, just for anybody, couple of like housekeeping things as you're getting started, right? If you have not, like, maybe you're not licensed. Okay. So, hey, you got to get licensed. That's number one, right? So if you're not licensed yet, you still got to get through that. Okay. Number two, if you have not yet gone through our virtual boot camp, all right, I'm going to like skip to like day one. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in like what to do leading up to the first 90 days, right? So if you have not gone through the virtual boot camp, if somebody could drop this in the chat, it's bestbusinesseverbootcamp.com, bestbusinesseverbootcamp.com. All right, what that's going to do for you, it's going to provide you with scripts, product knowledge, things to look out for, pitfalls, how to move faster, all sorts of things to kind of prepare your mind and prepare your skills to actually get started day one. Okay. So if you've been in for a while and you haven't done that yet, go back, check that out. You'll be so glad that you did. Not to mention, if you ever intend on bringing on somebody into this business, you want to go check it out so you know what they're going to see. So you can say, hey, what did you think about that one video, and reference that and kind of know what they're going through, because after all, like, our customers and the agents that we work with, right? Like, we need to provide services to them, and, being the person that knows what they're experiencing is important, whether it's on the customer side or the agent side. Okay. So you've gotten through boot camp, you got your writing numbers, you're sitting here going, okay, I need to get started. Here's some practical things that you should do outside of just like the boot camp stuff. Now, if you've gone through the boot camp and really took notes and paid attention, you should have a pretty good understanding. Number one, really simply, is you need to understand the process in which what makes a sale happen. Okay. You don't need to know everything from front to back per se, but you do need to know what happens. All right. So what happens? Number one, you make a phone call and you set an appointment either in person, over the phone, or somebody who's like, yeah, I'm ready to talk about insurance. Right. And I know that's so simple, but so much of the time we get so like bogged down with the products and all the things that we forget and invest our time in getting good on getting somebody on the phone that goes, yes, I want to talk to you. I will set an appointment with you. All right. Number two is, once the appointment starts, right? Like, and this is what I knew coming in. I'm like, okay, there's some kind of process. I don't know exactly the process, but I know there's a process, and it probably looks something like figure out what they need, show them how we can help, and then ask for the sale. All right. Like, I don't know what that means here in insurance, life insurance, but I know like those elements have to happen in the sale to make it happen. Right. And so I remember going out my first day. This is in the field. I had 6 appointments. Now, check this out. I had 6 appointments. My wife actually started before I did. And the first person she ever sat with, they bought insurance. So I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I can't let her win because we're super competitive, right? So I have 6 appointments. The first person, I go in their house. This was like peak COVID. They were mad that I was there. Like, they wouldn't tell me their name. They wouldn't give me their date of birth to quote them. It was just like, the whole experience was like terrible. And I'm like, what's going on? I thought they filled out the form and they wanted me to be here. So like, that was like dead on arrival. So I go to my second appointment and they no-showed me. I went to my third appointment and they already had a policy and I didn't know how to help them. My fourth appointment no-showed. My fifth appointment, I couldn't help. And I'm like, wow, this is terrible. And then my sixth appointment, I went to, and I show up, I pull up, it was an apartment complex, and the lady was standing out front, and she's like waving at me. She goes, hey, and she like hits her friend. She goes, hey, there's my insurance man. I was like, oh, I guess I'm her insurance man. And we go in, she tells me what she wants. I sell a policy, and it dawned on me that there was nothing that I could mess up. She was going to buy a policy today, right? It wasn't my fancy sales skills because I didn't have any in relation to this. It wasn't my presentation because I didn't have one. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't even know what product to write her. I had to call my manager, but like she was going to buy a policy. So first lesson is, if you just have enough appointments, you can be really bad and you can still make money. Okay. So focusing 80% of your effort on figuring out what it takes for you to get somebody on the phone to either set an appointment or go, yes, I'll talk to you. All right. 80% of your efforts. Okay. So what that looked like for me is day one. I got through boot camp and I was given a script. Now, I had made plenty of sales calls before. I'd run sales teams before. So I could have said in my own mind, I know how to do this. I've done this before. Like, I'll make my own script. But I didn't do that because obviously there's a whole bunch of people here that have made a tremendous amount of money and were making way, way more sales and more money than I had ever done that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to use this script verbatim. And I'm not going to fix anything. I'm not going to change anything, tweak anything until I make 100 grand. That's what I told myself. Okay. And so literally I used that script verbatim for months and it worked. Okay. So one mistake pitfall that I see people, they come in and they watch all these YouTube videos, which I encourage you to do. It's great. But every time they hear somebody different, they go, oh, I hear that guy's script. I hear that girl's script. I hear this one. And they start piecing together and they haven't even made a sale yet, or they haven't even sold 10 policies in a week yet. It's like, if you haven't done that, right, just like keep it like one thing. And because if you're putting this all together in every call, you're like, okay, what do I say next? That means that you're not yet thinking about what the client's really saying. You're too much worried in your own head about what you're saying. So just like keep it to one thing, don't change it. Right. So that's my advice on that. All right. So we got that part of it right there. Is the most important thing is on the phone, how much inputs, setting appointments. Okay, great. Here's the other thing. Now we have calls like this. We have live dials, which we'll talk about. However, the speed at which you get better is how much you're willing to invest in learning yourself. A lot of us, right, we went to school for X amount of years, college, and we show up, we get told to raise our hand, don't raise our hand, sit there, be quiet, and we wait for a teacher to tell us everything about what we need and when we need it and how we're going to go about it. And a lot of us sit there and wait. And then we wonder why we're not learning at the pace that others do. And because we're waiting for like somebody that knows more than us to show up and tap us on the shoulder and go, okay, it's time to learn now. And now I say that in a very like a way that's like, yeah, of course we know that we need to go, self-knowledge and learn ourselves, but we don't do it. So we have to break that pattern. So more than anything, the next 90 days is about breaking patterns and starting new habits that's going to lead to your success. It's not about like going from zero to now I'm like super insurance master and I know everything about everything. It's about creating some new habits that is going to take you the rest of the year. Okay. So one of those habits should be learning, right? So you work all day and maybe you're part-time, right? You work all day at your job. I know you're tired when you get home, but then you got to work your insurance business. Maybe you got some kids like I do, right? So you got to invest in your family, but you still have to carve out some time to do learning above and beyond everything else going on. And I know like you don't feel like doing it. So I remember my first day, I just told you about it, really got my butt kicked, went, 1 for 6, drove around Atlanta in crazy traffic all day long. Like who has some crazy traffic in your local area, right? Like if you drive in crazy traffic, type the city in which you live in the chat. I want to see who's got the craziest traffic. I guarantee Atlanta is nuts. Not only is it congested, but they drive 100 miles an hour on the side of the road. It's pandemonium. Okay. And so I go out the first day and I don't have these great results to show for it. And so that night, the end of my first day, I remember I'm at home, I'm eating, it's late, I'm tired, and there was some team call somewhere in the Family First Life ether that I found. It was a live call just like this. And this guy, his name's Tobe, he's still in the business, was going through his sales process. Remember I told you earlier, I knew there was a process. I knew there were steps. You should say this, then say this, but I really wasn't sure about it. And he goes through it. Here's exactly the steps and what I say. And I was like writing it all down. And the next day I went out and I did exactly what he said on the call in the order in which he did it. And I crushed it. And I went out in my first month with that exact process, with those exact words. And I was able to submit 40 policies my first month. Had I not been on that call that night, wouldn't have got those results for sure, because that was the exact process that I use today. And many of us do, right? But had I not been on that call and go, I'll stay up for a little extra, see what this call is about and check it out. So commit to learning. What does that mean? Okay. Being on calls, you're here, check, right? Learning about the products. How do you learn about the products? Well, there's product guides. You can go on the carriers. You can sign up for training with the carriers. You can read the brochures. Now, is that fun stuff? No. Is that stuff you should do? Yes. If you want to elevate yourself among everybody else, yes, you should do it. And so one of the ways that I learned how to, be adept at Universal Life, Index Universal Life, is I went and read illustrations. And when I didn't know what a word meant, I Googled it. I watched some YouTube videos. Now we have great trainings and all that, so definitely plug into that, but like just commit to getting better, right? 30 minutes, an hour a day is going to be a game changer. You do that for 90 days and you'll know the products. Maybe it's like sales skills, maybe whatever you feel like you're deficient in, you need to get better. Like I'm telling you, even if it's 15 minutes a day, you will be so much better in 90 days, right? I can't tell you how many things, whether it's, insurance, products. I remember years ago, I didn't know anything about video editing, like at all, right? And then, 6 months after that, I was doing video editing for the company that I worked for on a national scale and doing all this crazy stuff. And it wasn't because I locked myself in my room and was like, I'm going to learn video editing. It was, I took 20 minutes a day to watch some videos and then to go apply it. Insurance works the same way. Okay. So commit to learning that. And so you got the products, you got the scripts, and now the activity piece. Okay. So I was told if you're going to be full-time, which that was my goal right away, in the home, you need 30 appointments a week. Okay. What I would say to anybody that's trying to run telesales and you want to make a full-time income and do this at a high level, right? You need 8 to 10 appointments a day. And you go, wait, I'm doing one call, one closes. Okay, great. You need to get 8 to 10 people on the phone, 5 days a week that are ready to talk about insurance, right? They're ready to grab a pen and listen to you. And going back, I said earlier that we think in a very linear fashion. Okay. And just, stick with me here. So if a little bit is good, a lot is better, right? Just in general, if a little bit's good, a lot's better. And what most agents do is they go, well, if a lot is better, if I just do a little bit, I should get some results. That's how we think about it, right? If Drake is doing 10 policies a week and I see how hard he's working, if I do half of what he's doing, I should get half the results and I'll be okay with that because that's all I need to pay my bills. But it doesn't work like that in the real life. What happens is, let's say Drake has 10 appointments a day, okay, to write what he is writing. And then you have, well, I'm just going to make 5 appointments a day and I won't have to work as long. Well, 3 of the appointments, no show. 1 tells you no, and 1 tells you think about it, and you end up with 0, right? Versus if you have the 8 to 10, even on a bad day, you can write 1. On a good day, you might write 3. If you only have 5 appointments, on a bad day, you'll write 0, which, let's face it, bad days happen a third of the time. Good days happen a third of the time. And there's that middle third that could go either way, right? The goal is not to make your good days every day, because that's impossible because we're not perfect. The goal is to make your bad days your new average days, your average days, your good days, and then your good days there'll be outliers, right? And so you hear that and you go, well, I'm part-time. Okay, great. Right? You need to be full-time in your part-time. There's two types of part-time people. There's person A that goes, I just want to make some extra money here and there, whatever. And it's like, I hate to say this to you, but you're going to make here and there whatever kind of money. And it is what it is. You're not going to be able to, it's not going to be consistent. You're not going to be able to count on it. When it comes in because your effort's probably going to be the same way. Now there's the other person that goes, yes, I'm part-time, but my intention is I want to grow this into a full-time income. Okay, that person, let's say you work just a typical 9-to-5 job. That's okay. That's cool. Good for you, right? But you're going to have to structure your week where in those part-time hours, maybe it's the weekend, maybe it's 3 nights after work, whatever the case may be, right? Those are dedicated hours. And you can still get in. Like, I don't care what the schedule is. You can still get in about 20 appointments a week on most any schedule. You just have to figure out, like, what's that going to look like? Okay. So committing to that activity. So for me, it was 30 appointments a week. So in my first month, I ran 120 appointments. What did that do for me? You can be bad, but if you go to 100 of anything, like, you're going to figure it out, right? Anybody, if you just started or if you've been going, if you do 100 appointments over the next 30, 60, even 90 days, like, you are going to be very proficient in this game. Okay. But many of us, it takes a very long time to get to 100 appointments. Okay. So commit to 100 as fast as you can. It took me about 3 weeks. Okay. So we have that. Now let me talk to you about some mind stuff a little bit. Okay. Because I think this is important, because the way we think about things, the way we process decisions and issues really dictates the actual results that we get. Okay. So let me, we all have different risk tolerances, meaning in business, and that's what this is. This is business. Even if you don't intend on going out and building an agency, you're like, I just want to sell and do my thing. It's business, right? You have taxes, 1099, you have plenty of expenses, and you should still think of yourself as a business owner. And I'm going to explain why. Okay. Because again, if you don't, then you're going to find yourself in a trap of, hey, I just want to show up, sell my insurance, and then clock out mentally, and I don't have to worry about this stuff. And I get that, but that's going to cause you to be sloppy in areas that you wished you weren't. Okay. So think about it this way, an analogy, everybody, you may have heard this before, right? Last time you got on a plane, what does a plane do when it takes off? These are like huge metal things that fly through the sky. It is actually quite ridiculous, but they go full throttle so they can lift off. They get to cruising altitude and then they kind of hang out, right? That is the idea of what you need to do to get to where you're going over the next 90 days. If you don't, what happens? You fall off the end of the runway and you explode, right? No one wants to explode. But here's what happens, okay? So person A, we'll call him John. He gets started and he goes and buys some leads. Now, everybody has their own budget, okay? I was not rich when I got started, but I certainly wasn't broke. I had money to spend on leads. Maybe you have your last $300. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but the mentality is still the same. Okay. So person A, John, goes, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I spend my money on leads and we'll see if this works. That's what he's asking himself. So he goes out, he calls his first day, and there's no secret. Like, you're going to get hung up on. You're going to get told all sorts of things on every lead type. All right. Doesn't matter how much you're spending on leads, what they're all like. People are rude. People lie. Like, it happens. You know what I mean? And you're going to encounter that. And maybe your first day, your first week, you don't have the best results. And you're going to go, man, I can't double down and go put another effort in this week because I'm busy. I got family. Agents have told me all kinds of things. They're like, I can't show up to work this week because I have a job. It's like, well, you started knowing that you had a job. Like, how is that any different than last week? I can't show up to work this week because I have to focus on my family. It's like, well, obviously we all have families we got to focus on, but what are you doing 8 hours a day? Like you're sitting there and going family, family, family. Like, I don't know what that means, right? I can't show up to work because like all sorts of things that people have to focus on. I don't understand what they do all day. And I think I do understand, right? Like how many, and just only to the people that have been around and you've sold some stuff. Okay. Let's just be honest. I'm going to be honest. How many of you, by either show of hands or type in the chat me, and this is like, you're putting yourself out there. Okay. You've sat in your chair to work all day and you got to the end of the day and you're like, what did I actually accomplish? Not much. And you didn't feel good about it. Right. So what happened is you thought about work all day long. You're tired. It almost like you did the work because you're like, mentally, you're like, oh, I should make this call, but I really should do this. But I really, my family wants me to go do that. And I got to take the kids over here. And then my pins, I gotta put my pens in. I can't make calls if I don't have my pens together. What kind of person makes calls with a sloppy desk? You know, maybe I should clean my desk before I get going on this. And you get to the end of the day and you're so tired, like you actually did the work. And then you go, man, Drake, this insurance stuff is hard work. I worked all day and didn't get anything accomplished. No one bought anything. It's like, yeah, of course. Stop thinking so much, right? So you wrote the goal down. You said what your activity is going to do. You knew the amount of appointments that you have to do. Like if you just do the work, almost like a mindless robot, you'll get to the end of the day. And here's what's going to happen. You'll be tired in your body. You'll be ready to go to sleep. And then you'll feel good about yourself because you actually did what you said you were going to do. And you're not going to be mentally drained because you didn't think about your business all day, right? So like whatever that evil negative force is out there, whatever you want to call it, what it wants you to do is goes, hey, why don't you've worked pretty hard today, Sam. Why don't you just like chill out for a minute, take a break, and then you start thinking, right? You start thinking about, are these the best leads? Maybe there's some other leads, right? Well, I saw this other guy, he was doing this other kind of thing. And my scripts, it could probably use some work. I bet Kasha has a better script. And I see all the top producers, you know, I really don't feel like unmuting myself. I don't really feel like, you know, practicing. Like I got some other important things to do. Next thing you know, an hour's gone by, 7 TikToks were watched, and you don't feel like doing much of anything. And you just thought your way out of the business. Okay. It happens. And so now that I'm calling it out. I'm saying what it is. We're all guilty of it. All right. I'm telling you, just for 90 days, stop thinking. Literally stop thinking, right? Doing is the key to getting things done. We all know what to do. Make more phone calls, say the script, ask them if they want insurance, you know, do the financial inventory, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. After 90 days, right? Take 3 days off, 5 days off, and think all you want, right? You will have the results. You will feel better about yourself. And so give yourself a thinking break. Okay. So that's what most people do. The other person goes, hey, okay, for the next 90 days, I have this goal. 100 families helped, 100 people into licensing in 100 days. I don't have time to second guess myself. Okay. Now, if you can create any situation where you have a sense of urgency, I would do it. Okay. So here are some things that I had going on in my personal life, right? I was leaving a situation with a company that I'd been with for 14 years. I knew that if I didn't make it happen, I was going to look very foolish publicly with a bunch of people that I knew and my family, mostly my wife and kids, right? Like my daughter, Scarlett, if I don't make a sale every day, she's like the first one to be like, well, why didn't you sell anything, Daddy? Like it's a rough situation. Also, you know, like we were making decent money. And then I tell my wife, oh, after 14 years, we're doing something different. There is no time for me to like see if this works. Like they want results. You know what I mean? Yes, they want their daddy and, you know, warm and fuzzy stuff, but like we want results. We want, you know, to go to Disney. We want nice things and you need to provide it. Right? So I don't know if you have that in your life, those external things pushing you. If you don't, I would be very scared because I would love to sit here and say, like, I'm Iron Man and I'm super disciplined all the time. And I've certainly worked on that. And doing these 90-day, like, focused activities has helped me to grow my discipline. Certainly it has, but I'm not perfect. And I doubt you are as well. So anything that you can do to have somebody else hold you accountable in a way where you are kind of scared if you don't actually do it. All right. So there's a lot of ways you can do this. If I can figure it out. So if I'm sorry, if you're seeing this and you're not in our Discord chat, I'm just sorry because I don't have this readily available because it just came to me. But there is a website. There is a website that exists out there where it helps people to hit their goals. So if you're in our Discord chat, either Gloves Off or Living Hope, I will post this in the chat tonight. So keep an eye on it. If you're not, I'm sorry. Okay. But this website, what it does is you go there and you go, hey, this is my goal for this amount of time. And then it gives you some options of something that you can put up that happens if you don't hit it. And one of the best things there are is it sends one of your enemies money, and like an amount that is not going to break you, but will certainly hurt. Like, how many people would love to send $1,000 to their ex-girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever? Like, that would be terrible, right? Like, you're like, no, I don't want to ever talk to that person ever again. But if you knew that you had explained to your significant other now that your ex was getting $1,000 if you didn't hit it, that might be enough motivation to get you up and out of the house doing what you need to do, right? So I'm going to post the website. I encourage you to check it out. Do anything that you can do to make it painful if you don't actually go out and get this thing done, okay? And so here's the thing. If you go and you put these things in place, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have a lot of anxiety, all right? And so that the lie is, if I go out and do everything that I need to do and hit my goals, that I'm going to be on easy street, right? Think about, like, let's say you want to get super fit. I used to be a personal trainer. And the thought is, if I can just not eat carbs for the next 6 months, work out every single day, drink 2 gallons of water, I will be shredded, and then I can just do whatever I want and I'll be on easy street. And like, of course, if we sat down, and of course we know it doesn't work like that, right? You have to make a lifestyle out of it. What happens is you start going to the gym and it hurts. And then you keep going to the gym and it still hurts and it's not fun. And then if you keep going long enough, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, you start to see the slightest of results. And that little tiny shimmer of light, it's like the little tiny like ember of like, okay, I'm actually getting results. Maybe I should keep going. And that gets you to 8 weeks. And you're like, okay, I might actually do it this time. And that gets you to 9 weeks. And then you're like, wow, I'm actually starting to see actual results. And then you get to the full 12 weeks, and you can't believe that it was this easy to get that major of results. But every step of the way, you felt like quitting, right? Things weren't going right. People were canceling. People were getting mad at you. You know, you were getting no-showed on. You wrote a policy and it charged back. You know, you brought somebody in the business that told you they were going to get started and they didn't. They yelled at you. They screamed at you. They told you you were wrong. They told you you were stupid. Like, all these things happen. In fact, I was having a conversation with Grady Paulson. It was my first year in the business. Mind you, at this point in time, I was working 16-hour days, which now I work a little bit less, maybe 12 or 14. I was working 16-hour days, driving around Atlanta, 8, 10 appointments a day, talking to agents all day long, trying to figure this thing out, putting money back into marketing, trying to, make sure I didn't like abandon my family and make time for them, try to make it to the gym, and kind of failing in some areas and feeling super stressed out. I'll just be honest. And I called Grady. I was like, man, like, I'm on edge all the time. Is this normal? I just want to know if it's normal. Right. And he's like, yeah, like, the stakes are big. The money's bigger. yeah, this is the business world. Business is hard, life is long. I was like, okay, fine. I can deal with that then. And it was funny, as much as I was stressed out at that point, after about a year, everything just like evened out. Now, is it that everything got easier? No, it's I got better, right? I got better at underwriting and knowing how to put somebody in the proper product. I got better at getting my dials done faster and, closing more deals as a percentage. I got better at, managing the business side. I got better at managing, my energy because I knew what it took now. And, then the economies of scale started to kick in. What does that mean? Okay. Part of this 90 days is to create new habits, but there is still that thing, like you need to get to a destination. We all say it's about the journey, and yes, that's true, but you need to get to a destination. What is that destination? Is the next rung of the ladder where you can cruise for a little bit and catch your breath before the next ascent. Okay, so what does that mean for you? So let's take the person out there that maybe you have been going at this for a while and you've started to hit that 10 families a month level. Congratulations, good for you, right? Like some people they're not a six-figure producer yet, and you're a six-figure producer. Like, how does that sound, right? If that's you're a six-figure producer. You probably compare yourself to people that are doing multiple six figures or even seven figures, and you don't think you're anything. But if you've hit that rung, like, good for you. Okay. But then you're like, I see all these people doing more. I feel like I should be able to do more. I put in just as many hours. Why is it not happening for me? And that's because you just don't have a few things on your side, right? You don't have enough gas in the tank. That could be resources, right? That could be certain efficiencies. That could be certain mindsets and decision making that's holding you back. Okay. So the first is let's talk about resources, right? You go, well, I'm just going to go put some money in some leads and I'm going to get a return. And that happens. You sell a couple and you're like, cool. And, in the boot camp, we talked about this. We've talked about this a lot, right? When you make a dollar, it's not your dollar, it's the business's dollar, right? Part of that goes to taxes. Part of that goes back in the business. And then there's a little sliver that you get to go spend and your lifestyle on. Okay. But if you just stay there at that level, it's not going to grow, right? And even worse, if you go out and you spend more money on lifestyle, because this is maybe the first time you've made money like this. And I get it. We all want to go have that fun. All right. But what you could do is start a bankroll, right? You could start growing that pot of money. And so let's say you're the person that starts and you're spending your first $300 on leads. And then that turns into $300 every other week. And then $300 a week. And then a lot of people just chill there. They're like, oh, I'm at a good spot. Everything's comfortable. But then you have that one big chargeback that you didn't expect to happen. Now you're kind of back and like, oh, crap, I thought I was beyond this. No, my friend, you're never beyond something bad happening in your business at any level. Okay. If it can happen, it will happen. You're not better than it. I'm not better than it. So you have to have a little bit of paranoia to always stay sharp. Okay. So at $300 a week, let's say if you're getting a 5x return on your investment, that's $1,500 a week. Okay, that's pretty good. But what if you were spending $1,000 a week, $1,500 a week? Now, this specific advice doesn't apply to everybody. This applies to the person that has done all of the things I'm talking to, and they've started to get results and they know how to sell insurance. If you don't know how to sell insurance, you can't just spend your way to the top. But if you know how to sell insurance, right, and you're helping 10 families a month, you don't have a major skill set deficit. You have a spending problem. You need to spend more on your business into yourself. Okay. And so for some people that scares them, freaks them out. They go, well, I'll spend more after this and this happens. And then a week turns into a month turns into 6 months. And this time next year, you're in the same spot. Okay. The same thing could be applied to growing the business, right? Agents, staff. Okay. So if anybody's out there, you're starting to get close to that 20 families a month helped, right? You should consider an assistant of some sort. How many people you've sold enough policies that you stay on hold with the carriers way too long and you don't have any hair left? Now, for Drake and Lewis, this doesn't apply to you guys. Appreciate you guys being on, but you're on hold with the carriers. We don't get paid to be on hold with the carriers. We get paid for two things: helping families buy insurance and helping agents to learn how to sell insurance. Everything outside of those two things is something that we should delegate to somebody else in our business, but we don't, right? And you end up spending 3 hours on hold with Mutual of Omaha and America and whoever else, and you wonder why you can't get to the next level. So you're holding on to a couple dollars when you could go spend a couple $100 a week on an assistant. So if you're spending $300 a week on an assistant, okay, that's $1,200 a month. That's one policy, maybe two, right? You could buy your hours back and go sell an extra 10. But those are the decisions that keep us where we're at. All right. And so I've done a fair job, but I look at other people and how fast they make those decisions and stick with those decisions and go, okay, I'm going to get to the next level. And I go, man, I look back on how I made, those decisions. And a lot of those are, we logically know what to do. We know, okay, yeah, we should spend more and do these other things. But emotionally, we go, but I'm scared, right? I've not been great with money in the past, so I'm afraid of to trust myself in the future. Or I've made a bad investment in the past, or I've bought leads before and they didn't work out. Or every time I get on going, I know that I always kind of lose focus because of whatever. And I know that about myself, so I don't trust myself. Well, at some point, you have to become a grown-up and go, you know what? Like, I know that I've failed in the past, but this time is going to be different. And because at the end of the day, when I started looking at Family First Life, I said, I told my wife this. I said, I'm okay if I spend my entire life making money in attempts to be a success, and I do everything that I can. At the end of my life, I lose it all and I don't have anything to my name. Honestly, I'm okay with that. I'm okay not being a quote unquote success. What I'm not okay with is trying every step of the way to be a success. And what I don't want to happen is get so lulled into just being okay that I wake up, years and years down the road after my girls are grown and out of the house, and I go, well, I did okay. It's like, we all know, like, when we go to bed at night, if we're giving it our all, and when we're not, that's when we have like all the extra baggage that goes along with it, right? We beat ourselves up and we stress ourselves out. We're not very nice to us inside our head. And then we go to our next client tomorrow and we don't have any patience for them because we don't have any patience for ourselves. So I just put that out there to say, right? Examine how you're making decisions. And maybe you don't know what decisions to make because you're brand new, and that's okay, right? The last piece of this is to surround yourself constantly with people that are either at or going to the places that you want to be at in this business. Now, we've heard that a bunch of times. We go, yeah, if you want to be, the fit, a fit person, hang around with 5 fit people. If you want to be a rich person, hang around 5 fit rich people. But yet, right, when it comes down to us, there's a bunch of people on here right now that I don't see on live dials. There's a bunch of people right here right now, and I can't see all of the screens, that, are maybe not as engaged on this call as they could be. And I'm not pointing fingers, but like, that's just the truth about it. When I got started here, I knew that there's an environment here of super successful people, right? These are, the Jamie Cheerios of the world, the Grady Paulsons of the world, the Andrew Taylors of the world. I mean, these individuals, right? Especially Grady, Andrew, Sean, Mike, not even Sean, Mike. Let's just take him out of the picture, right? Because he's the president of the whole deal. Andrew, Grady, and a bunch of other names that we could list, even Jamie Cheerio, right? They have agencies equal to or much, much bigger than whole entire companies in other arenas, like whole companies. And I'm like, okay, I know, maybe you're here. I just want to get and sell insurance and just do my thing and be over here in the corner. Good. I hear you. But if you really want to move fast and do all the things in your mind that you say you want to do, you have to put yourself like in the water around the people. Right. So a couple weeks in, I flew out to LA to like meet these people because I want to know, what are these people like? Because I don't want to just hear what they're saying. I want to see what they're doing. Because you can be on a call right now and go, okay, I like what this Josh guy is saying. I don't like what this Josh guy is saying. But how about you show up 6 days a week and see what I actually do, not what I say? And that applies for everybody else. And if you do that, there's actually a study that if you are like in proximity, if you sit at work near a high performer, your work's going to be 25% better, just in osmosis. On the result of that, if you don't, or you're around poor performers, that's going to hurt you much, much more than the high performers can help you. So that should excite and frighten everybody, that it's like, look, if I never get on live dials and I'm not around the people that I see every day that lift me up, that make me want to do better, right? Then I'm just hanging out with my wife and kids, which I love, but they're not going to help me sell more insurance. They're not going to excite me to leave them to go talk to Sally, who's grumpy today, but her family needs help. You know what I mean? So commit to surrounding yourself constantly. You can't take time off. You know what I mean? You can't take a day off. And I'm saying this hyperbolic in that, like, as soon as we all think, oh, I'm above, that because I'm solid. You're not. I'm not. You're not. Like, none of us are. It has to be a constant thing that we're being around people that push us and like, kind of like make us feel some kind of way about where we're at because of what they do and what they say. And it's shining a mirror on ourselves of deficiencies that we know we have. Okay. So with all that said, a lot of mindset and esoteric things that I gave you today, of things that I've struggled with, I've seen other people struggle with, and quite frankly, many other people when in conversations don't even know that's what they're struggling with. But when you call it out, they go, that sounds a lot where I've been at mentally. And it's almost like this Josh guy knows where I've been. I've been there. And then there's all of the list items that you can practically do. Those are quick and easy things. And I promise you, if you keep coming around, you stay close to the fire around the people that are doing the things, I just said it will rub off and you'll be 25% better. But if you do the whole list and get obsessed about getting better at it and actually take time, doesn't mean you're going to learn faster than the next guy or do faster, but over time, you will separate yourself from the pack. My daughter, she just picked up the violin and she goes, I want to be one of the best. And I said, baby, I will tell you in 30 seconds how to be the best in your school. I've done it. I can tell you how to do it. She goes, how, Daddy? I said, look, she's in 3rd grade. I said, next year, half the kids aren't going to come out for violin. The year after that, half of them again. And it's going to keep happening. And most of the people that continue to come out, they're not going to practice every day. And you don't even need to practice for hours and hours every day. Start out, practice 5 minutes every day. Get your violin out, play your 2 favorite songs, put it away. That's it. You do that for 5 years. You're 8 years old now. You'll be 13. You'll be just starting high school. You'll be better than 3/4 of the people. And then you start practicing 30 minutes a day. By the end of the high school, some of the kids, it's not going to be cool anymore. They don't want to do it. They put it down. There's going to be a couple that, like and enjoy playing the violin. But if you just practice your 30 minutes a day, you'll be the best, because most people don't do it. You can give them all of the secrets of the universe on how to be the best at the violin, and they just simply won't do it. And so if you want to be the best, it's simple. Just show up tomorrow and do the things, and then show up the next day. And even when you have a bad day, being consistent isn't, I'm going to be great every day. It's, I showed up today. I had a terrible day, but I did the inputs. Tomorrow, it was a little bit better. The next day, it was a little bit worse. You don't have 100% to give every day, but if you show up every day and give what you do have, you'll be better and outproduce most everybody. So with that said, guys, appreciate you being on. The people that were on camera, love seeing your faces, the smiles, the laughs, and the oh me's at times. And we're going to keep this open for live dials. I got like 4 or 5 appointments. I'm going to try to close a deal. And if you need any help, this is where we hang out 6 days a week. You guys have a great day. We'll check you later.